Everybody, it's Dr. Joe on this Wealth Wednesday, Wednesday evening. Very nice weather where we are here in the DC area. Hope everyone's doing well wherever they are. And as usual, just let me know who you are, where you're tuning in from, and I'll definitely give you a little shout out and so on. So we got another interesting sessions lined up today. We are going to do the wrap up for the month of August. As you may know, the month of August we've had the focus has been on landlording landlording issues. The way we started off, if you recall, session one. If you haven't watched the videos, feel free to watch the four live streams that we've done in the month of August. The first one we had, I was talking primarily of landlord fears. And then the second one, we had my tenants, several of my tenants, three of my tenants, in fact, who who were rented from me from a number of years. Some of them were rented from me for 1 or 2 years, and others for I think it was like 5 or 6 years. And then the third one was with me for 25 years. So that was session number 2 in the month of August. And then number 3, we had some students who purchased some homes. And so we had 3 students there, and they talked about their experiences as beginner or intermediate investors and landlords. They shared their thoughts and their lessons learned. And then last week, we had Kevin Keel, and who's more of a seasoned landlord. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's with Easy Landlord, easylandlord.com, and he kind of shared his perspective. And so that was last week. And so this week is the 5th session of the month of August. And the title today is going to be Don't Dread Another First of the Month. Use these 7 habits of highly successful landlords. Don't dread another first of the month. Use these 7 habits of highly successful landlords. That's the title today. And we're going to kind of bring it all together. Put a little bow on it in terms of all the things that we've discussed the last several weeks. So again, I welcome everybody, and just let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from, and then we'll definitely give you a little shout out. We're going to have a Q&A towards the end. So if you got some questions, which I'm sure you will do, bring them up a bit later on this afternoon or towards the end of the session. Anyway, let me just kick in. So it's the first of the month. Well, technically it's the first of the month tomorrow. But you know what that brings? That brings for a lot of landlords a lot of dread, a lot of stress, and a new beginning. You've got to collect rent, you've got to pay bills, you got mortgages to pay, you've got issues you got to wrestle with, you got taxes to pay, you got insurance to pay, you got a whole bunch of different things at the beginning of the month, and you are worried. So so essentially the question becomes, not all landlords are worried. I'm certainly not worried when it's the beginning of the month. I'm looking forward for my payments hitting my account. Most of my tenants, all of my housing authority Section 8 payments are automatic, so they hit my account. Typically, it's on the 2nd of the month. So the bulk of my payments come in regardless. So I'm not really that stressed about it. It's just a small portion of the remaining tenants who I've got to collect rent from. And we are doing pretty good now. We've got a very high payment rate in terms of our tenants. So I'm not really worried about that. And obviously expenses, that's you got mortgages to pay, you got bills to pay. That's okay. And so on. So I'm not really that stressed. But for a lot of people, the first of the month is a very frustrating time. They have to go out and then sort of harass their tenants, beg them to pay, chase them around, knock on doors. I recall when I first started, I used to go to people's homes, believe it or not, to collect rent, knock on the door, and, before I showed up, the lights were on. As soon as I knock on the door, the lights go off, and I can hear behind the door, shh, everybody quiet, the landlord's here. And then, they don't open the door. About 10 minutes later, when I've gone, the lights come back on again. So, whoops. There you go. Anyway, so I mean, I've been through that, and it's not a very pleasant experience. So what I'm going to share with you some of the habits which I've sort of developed in the past, 30 plus years. And I think based on my research and based on my conversations with other landlords, these are some of the habits that that I'm sort of seeing that that may be helpful for you if you want to become a successful landlord and not have to worry about the first of the month and so on. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to talk about 7 principles. And we all know that I'm a great believer on tier 1 tenants. If you can have and rent 2 tier 1 tenants, your life is a lot easier, a lot smoother. If you don't rent to tier 1 tenants, it's just a life of stress, frustration, anger, and say, I'm done with this business, I want out, and so on. So, okay, tier 1 tenants protect your investment because we're all doing this for the same reason, which is we want financial independence. We want to have passive income and hopefully achieve some of the goals that we all aspire for ourselves. Okay, so let's go through each of the habits. I'm going to start off with habit number 1, which is run your landlording business like a business. How about that? Run your landlording business like a business. I'm going to put that on the screen so you can see that one. Habit number 1 is run your landlording business like a business. Well, that sounds obvious, but it's not obvious to a lot of people. So what do I mean? What I mean is that essentially, to run your business like a business, you understand that you have customers. Okay, every business has customers because the customers are the ones who are bringing you revenue. Okay, and you have to protect that income stream. Otherwise, you'll have no income. So running a landlording business is a business, really, at the end of the day. And because it's not just a business by, I mean, that's a cliche, run it like a business because it is a business. Well, it is true. But the reality is that most businesses fail. Okay, so just running it like a business in itself doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful. Okay, because I forgot what the 60-70% of all businesses fail within a few years. So just running it like a business is not enough. It takes certain other elements of that one. So for example, as I said before, realizing that your customer, i.e. your tenant, is the key. They're the ones bringing you revenue. You got to protect that income stream. So in my opinion, the tenant is on par with in terms of an asset that you have to nurture and protect. Not all landlords see it that way. Most landlords see tenants as a hassle, people you got to deal with, and so on. So successful landlords, I found, treat tenants as an asset. And if not their greatest asset, at least it's definitely up there. Now, how do you get these great tenants? You screen. So successful, to run it like a business, you've got to screen well. You know my thing. I'm into screening thoroughly. In fact, we have a class scheduled for very shortly on the what's it called, on how to find great tenants that pay and stay. So we'll be doing a course that's going to be starting very shortly. So you can sign up for that one. But we kind of had a masterclass last week where I talked about it in detail. So screening is absolutely key in terms of getting your tenants and hopefully having your tenants protect your investment. I don't need to go into the nuts and bolts of the screening, what I do, but I think we all understand what that is. And then the other thing is to understand that satisfied customers at the end of the day, will result in minimized turnover, which is, people leaving you on a regular basis. So my thinking is that, if your tenants are happy, they're more likely to pay, they're more likely to take care of your property, and just generally pleasant to deal with and stay a long time. So understanding that your tenant's satisfaction is key, then you'll run it accordingly. And one of the things is to understand what these tenants are looking for. What amenities are they looking for from your property? Because if you can put your property in a perspective whereby they appeal to your perspective or your desired tenant or customer, then you're more likely to attract them. So that's what I mean by run it like a business. You understand who your primary income stream is, and you revolve your business all around that. So that's what I mean by habit number one. Successful landlords, put it up on the screen again. Successful landlords essentially run their landlording business like a business. And if you do it like that, there's a pretty good chance that you'll probably be successful. So that's habit number one. So let's go to habit number two that successful landlords that I found, that they keep. And that is to know the Fed. They understand the laws. Okay, we all know that the rental. Whoops. Let's see. We all know that the rental business is governed by a series of laws, and those laws are federal, state, in some cases local. Landlord tenant laws. They essentially sort of what's it called, drive what you can and can't do. Tenants have rights, and landlords have responsibilities. So obviously the tenants have to hold up to their side of the bargain, but you as the landlord have to hold up to your side of the bargain in terms of habitability, building codes, fair housing, and things like that. So there are laws at the federal level, and those ones are things like the Fair Housing Act, which limit, it kind of addresses discrimination and what you can and cannot do in terms of when people apply and screening your prospective tenants. And there's also the Federal Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA. So many times landlords pull credit reports from tenants or prospective tenants. And so they will have to, if you pull a credit report and you deny somebody based on that, credit pull, there are certain laws, there's certain things that you have to do in terms of disclosure and letting the applicant know. So these are the federal level. We all know there are protected classes, race, sexual orientation, sex, marital status, color, and there's about 10 or 12 protected classes. So that's on the federal level. Now, in terms of some of the local levels, they tend to sort of address things like standards of habitability of your unit and repairs. Is your property safe? Is it address all the health and safety issues? Leases, that's also included maybe on a state level, what you can and can't include in your lease. For example, I think in some states, let's have give me an example. I know, like, a good example would be screening. Okay. Some states you cannot use criminal background as a basis, or you can't even pull criminal backgrounds checks in some states, and other states you can. So these are sort of local or state level overrides that you need to be aware of in your area. Security deposits, there are rules usually at the state and local level which address security deposits. There's certain disclosures that you have to do. So there's abandoned property requirements, eviction requirements. These are mainly done at the state level and the local levels in terms of what you can't do. So a successful landlord, the habit is that they are very knowledgeable and aware of these laws and these rules and requirements, because it's protecting them. And really, the old saying, ignorance is bliss, it doesn't always work. You can't go into a judge if you go into a court and say, Your Honor, I didn't know the laws in my area. I didn't know, I wasn't aware of them. I wasn't aware that I had to give a 30-day notice before I did this. I wasn't aware that I had to give a 5-day notice before I did that. You can't really, use those excuses when you're in front of a judge. They'll just sort of say, well, you should have known, and so on. So again, a habit of a successful, what's it called? Put number 2 again. The habit of a successful landlord is that they know the various, federal, state, and local laws. Okay, so that's number 2, and then we'll trigger on to number 3, which is another habit for number 3 is they know successful landlords. They know how to find great tenants, and they do that through marketing. Okay, they figured out the type of tenant they want and where they can go to get these tenants. Okay, so that's a habit of successful landlords. For example, I know the type of tenant I'm striving for. I have a pretty good idea what their needs are, what their dislikes, where they want to live, where they don't want to live, who they want to rent from, who they don't want to rent from, and what they're looking for, what they're not. I mean, I have a pretty good idea of my desired quote unquote tier 1 tenant. So because I know where they are, I tend to advertise and market in places where they are likely to be. And let me give you an example to drive this home. As you know, I think I've shared with you a couple of weeks ago. I have a tenant who had been with me for 6 years, and they left because their voucher was downgraded, and so we're in the process right now of getting the place ready, and the house, fingers crossed, should be ready on Friday. And because Monday is a holiday, we're going to stage it on Tuesday, and we should be ready to roll. So I know that in Washington, the DC Housing Authority, they have this thing called Meet and Lease. It's a forum whereby we can connect landlords with tenants who are looking. So anyway, because I know that's a platform that prospective voucher holders are looking on, I went there a couple of weeks ago and gave people a heads up that I'll have a property very shortly. So I did some pre-marketing. The place is not even ready. I did some pre-marketing. And based on that marketing, call, conversation, sort of description of the property, so far we've got over 30 prospective people who are interested in the house. 30 are interested in this house, and it's not even ready yet. Okay, so and most, if not all of them, have the bedroom voucher size that is required, and based on the conversations, a lot of them are very, very interested in seeing the property. So once the property is available, which will be early next week, I'll show it, and hopefully we'll get some quality applicants, and hopefully we'll finalize something. So the point is that successful landlords have a pretty good idea of what they need to say, where the prospective tenants are located, and they craft their messages to appeal to them. And that's, because at the end of the day, you have to market in order to attract, at least get people in the door. And then you'll go to habit number 4, which is, my friends, use the rental applications to screen for great tenants. Okay, so so you got these people who are interested in the house through our marketing campaign, and the next thing we want to do is to make sure that we we kind of start the screening process in order to identify candidates who meet our criteria. Okay, so as you know, I have an 8-page rental application, pretty thorough, pretty detailed, which is designed to gather information about prospects. Who are they, where they lived before, who's their landlords, where do they work. All these things are contained within my rental application. So the habit is that you have to have good documents. Okay, it could be the rental application, and make sure you ask the relevant questions. That way you can sort of weed out those people who qualify and those people who may not qualify. It's your first initial screening is your rental application. So, I mean, that's just me. I like a detailed application. Now, as part of the class, how to find great tenants, we do include terabyte documents, which I use on a day-to-day basis for my business. So for those people who sign up for that class, you're going to get my documents, and along with all the information needed to hopefully to help you become a successful landlord. So that's just me. Now there are other landlords out here who have these, I just call them Mickey Mouse application. A page, the ones you can get from Walmart or the ones you get from Office Depot or whatever. Very basic. They ask very, very simple questions, and to me, they're almost a waste of time. They don't what's it called? They don't really get to the crux of this person and what you're looking for from them and so on. So use your rental application at the start of a screening process, and it's things like rental history, income stability, credit, and so on. And as you know, for me, as part of my screening, I do a home visit. So I always go to the person's home to see how they live, because what I found is that how they live is a good indication of how my house will be in 3 months from now. Okay, so I've got so far I've done 4 of them. So let me kind of recap where we are in terms of the habits. So habit number 1 is successful landlords run their landlord in business like a business. Okay, it's a cliche, I get it. Most businesses fail. So if you run your landlord in business like most other people, you'll probably fail. So you want to do something different, which is and I've learned is that the key is put the tenant as a centerpiece of your business, your customer as a centerpiece of your business, and wrap all your services around all of that. That's what I found to be successful. And I've tried it the other way. And I've just found that as long as you got happy tenants and you screen good tenants, you'll be fine. If you don't have happy tenants, you're not going to survive. You'll say, Dr. Joe, I want out of this business. I don't care what you say, and so on. So that's not habit number 1. Habit number 2 is that, successful landlords, they know about the laws that govern their business, whether it be laws at the federal level, state level, and local level, including fair housing. You've got to know the laws, because at the end of the day, you are guided by that, and you don't want you get yourself in a whole bunch of problems because you didn't know. For example, I think we talked about it last week. It was with Kevin. I recall I went to a landlord-tenant court once, and I know you won't believe this. And that's the reason why I go to landlord-tenant courts on a regular basis, just to kind of check in and see what's up. Anyway, this landlord was having a hard time from their tenants. So what this landlord did, they went to the tenant's home and they took the front door off. Okay, they took the front door off the hinges. That was their retaliation against the tenant. Crazy story. I mean, the landlord, in his wisdom, felt that he was so upset, he'll teach these tenants a lesson. And he took the doors off the front door off, and he took the door away. Okay, and needless to say, the tenant wasn't too happy about it. They called the police, and next thing you know, all kind of hell broke loose and so on. So again, no, you can't do that. That's what we call an illegal eviction. So know your laws, and successful landlords do know those, because ignorance is not bliss. Let's go to number 3, which is that you've used your marketing campaign to find great tenants. Okay, understand who your tenants are and where they're likely to be looking for properties, and make sure you advertise there. If you rent to Section 8, for example, then you may want to contact your local housing authority and find out from them, where do they steer their voucher holders to in terms of when they're looking. And you want to make sure that you advertise there. If you're looking for other types of folks, then you advertise there. If you're looking for military, make sure you advertise in where military people are. If you're looking for students, for example, make sure you advertise where the students are. And if you're looking for nurses, make sure you advertise where nurses are going to be looking. So again, you can sort of target your marketing to appeal to the type of tenants that you're looking for. It's not discrimination. It's just target marketing. So some people advertise in CNN, some people like advertising in Fox, some people advertise in MSNBC. It's okay. It's just target marketing they know who their customer is, and they want to make sure their marketing reaches that customer. So that's number 3. And then finally, number 4, I talked about use your rental application to screen for great tenants. Because at the end of the day, you got people at the door, you got to screen them well, such that you don't get the kind of people that don't qualify, or people that won't, hit your mark, and so on. So that's habit number 4. Use your rental application to screen for great tenants. And then we'll move on to habit number 5, which is, my friends, prepare and implement good landlord-tenant documents. Okay. Habit of a successful landlord. Again, before we'll be going to Q&A very shortly. So if you got some questions, feel free to line them up. And again, for those people, just let you know, we do have a landlord, how to find great tenants masterclass course, and which is going to be starting very shortly. And to register, you go to www.drjoeplaybook. I don't see it on the screen here, but www.drjoeplaybook.com if you are to register. And so that's going to be, and as part of the course, you're going to get 10 of the documents that I use on a day-to-day basis. And also you get all the information that's going to make you a successful landlord, including these habits I'm going to be talking about. And then on top of that, you get 2 live coaching calls, private sessions, whereby, I'll be able to available to you to answer all your questions. And you can pick my brain, as they say, for those sessions. So that's going to start very shortly. So again, to register for the course, just sign up at www.joeplaybook.com. And we'll be starting that course very shortly. So hopefully you'll be a part of that one. It's going to be a great course. So number 5 is prepare and implement good landlord documents. This is the key. Well, not the key. It's a very important thing. Successful landlords have good documents, and there are lots of documents that, surround this business. And the important thing is that successful landlords have taken the time to understand the local, federal, state regulations, the requirements, and they make sure that their documentation incorporates all those different things. Okay, so one of the things that obviously common thing is a lease. There may be certain things that apply in one jurisdiction that doesn't apply in another. For example, I'm sorry. In Washington, D.C., for example, there's certain things that you can and can't do, certain things that you must have in your rental agreement that you don't need in Maryland and Virginia and vice versa. Okay, so so make sure that your documents reflect all those different things. I have, as part of my process, as I said before, I have a lot of documents that the tenants have to sign on move-in days, not just the one document, the lease, although the lease is the most important thing. And that my lease is 20 pages. So it's very thorough, very detailed, developed over a number of years and a number of experiences. So you have leases, and make sure that your lease is compliant. There are what we call move-in documents. So on the day of move-in, you have to, kind of assess the condition of the house on day 1. And then that way, both you and the tenant have verified the condition of the house on day 1. And therefore, you do the same thing on day X, whenever they leave, X number of years from now, to verify the condition at that point. Therefore, if there's any damage, then you have a basis for subtracting money from your security deposit. So that's move-in documents. There are, there's federal documents like the Lead Disclosure Act documents. There's a bunch of those. There are state level, documents. I know in Washington, D.C., for example, there's a document called the Tenant Bill of Rights. Tenant Bill of Rights. And so as a landlord, you have to share with your tenants and let them know that they have certain rights, and you have to give that to them. If you don't, then you can get yourself in a lot of problems. There are certain notices that you have to give people. If you want to evict, if you don't pay rent, if there's a lease violation, there's certain notices that you have to provide your tenants. So there's lots of these documents that kind of support the business. And successful landlords, they understand what those documents are, and they make sure they have them as part of the way of doing business. Okay, so prepare your documents and make sure that they're compliant with the laws. Be good to have them reviewed by an attorney or some kind of legal person beforehand to make sure they're compliant with all your local, federal, and state laws wherever you are. So, so I talked about the lease. There's moving checklists. There's lead disclosures. There's house rules. Like I said 10 of these documents are included if you are part of the sort of the how to find great tenant, the Section 8, the Tenant Screening Playbook course. So sign up for that one, the Tenant Screening Playbook. You're going to get all my documents, at least 10 of them anyway, including the application of leases, disclosures, and things like that. That will help you for the business. So again, go to drjoeplaybook.com, www.drjoeplaybook.com, and hopefully I'll see you very, very shortly. You can register there. Okay, so that's habit number, let's have a look. I think that was 6, wasn't it? And no, that was 5. So 5 is prepare and implement good landlord tenant documents. That's number 5. So habit number 6 is this is an interesting one. Is to handle tenant related problems carefully and effectively. Okay. They know how to, you're going to have problems when you are a landlord. You're going to have problems that come in all shapes and sizes. It could be problems associated with non-payment of rent, problems associated with tenants not compliant with the lease terms. There could be problems associated with disagreements and arguments with neighbors. You could have problems whereby you have to evict tenants. So you're going to have problems, and that's just the way it is. Whenever you're dealing with human beings, you're going to have problems. As a result of that. So successful landlords, they sort of understand how to handle these problems in a very effective way. What I've realized is that, and I learned this the hard way, is that you kind of pick your battle sometimes. And it's not, you don't have to win every battle. Just to score brownie points. It's not necessary. There's no point getting stressed over those things. Sometimes just let it go. Life's too short, and so on. So otherwise you'll be stressed out over simple things, little things, which will distract you from the bigger picture, which is where you're going in terms of financial independence, your goals. Okay, and what does it say? The forest from the trees. I forgot what that saying goes. Don't separate the forest from the trees, or you know what I'm saying. Put that in the chat. Let me know. But yeah, so the idea is stay focused on the prize, and the prize is that the tenants are there to provide you income, which hopefully will get you to where you need to go. And so I think when we had the session a couple of weeks ago, when I had my tenants in place, I think I shared with you. I had one of my tenants. She had been with me for 25 years, and she kind of alluded to, that she was thinking of leaving me. And, after all that time, obviously I didn't want her to leave. And so I took the time to understand what her concerns were. And we sat down, we talked it, we ran it through it. And, I understood where she was coming from, and she understood where I was coming from. And we're able to address her problems, her concerns, in such a way that she's now staying, and hopefully she intends to stay even longer. So I kind of shared with you those kind of stories because you're going to get all kind of problems. You get some good tenants, even though you screen well. Sometimes life happens and people get stressed out. People lose their jobs. People, so if a tenant, I'll give you another example, what we do. If a tenant is having financial difficulties, my assistant has taken the time to learn all the different programs out here, whereby they may be able to get some assistance from, some of the local governments. So she's or some of the utility companies. So she's very familiar with all these different programs, and therefore, when a tenant expresses a concern, let's say, for instance, having difficulty coming paying some of the utilities or paying some of the rent, my assistant reaches out to the tenant and works with them to see if she can help them, with that. So as a result of that, we work things out. So again, tactfully address issues, problems, and concern, and stay focused on the prize. That's number 6. And then finally, habit number 7 is get and stay organized. And organized. That's quite important, really, because there's a lot of stuff that you're dealing with as a landlord, and you're dealing with documents. There's lots of documents. You got leases, you got agreements, and all that different things. You got notices, you got utilities, you got taxes, you got insurance. There's a lot of stuff that comes in, and that needs to be organized. And otherwise, if you lose stuff, it's not good. So what I do, for example, we get a lot of paper stuff, statements from different entities. And so some of them are electronic, some of them are paper. But, I have an assistant that comes, a different assistant, and she sort of gets all the documents together, scans it, organizes it, files it. And that way, if we ever need any documents, we can always get it because everything is electronic and indexed and so on. So staying organized is very, very important in terms of the documents, because there's a lot of documents. So you create a filing system that allows you to retrieve your documents, hopefully when you need them. And, so there's a filing system, communications with tenants, document those. We do a lot of text messages. If it's legal, then obviously you want to make sure that you put it in black and white in email form or notices and things like that. There's good software there's a lot of good software now that a lot of landlords use to managing their business. So I think there are things like Buildium, Appfolio, there's Rent Ready, there's a whole bunch of those different management software which you may want to use in order to stay organized. And then finally is the taxes. Track your finances and taxes accurately. What I do, I have a bookkeeper and who kind of keeps track of all the incomes and expenses going out, and she tracks it and then feeds it over to the CPA. In fact, I met with my CPA today, and to kind of go through the numbers and financials and things like that. So, and then you pay your taxes, hopefully, and to Uncle Sam and the state authorities, and you have all the supporting documents, required for that. So again, that's number 7 is really the importance, especially if you're going to start scaling your business. You're just going to have a lot of stuff that if it's not managed or if it's not organized, it can get totally out of control. So always seek to become more organized and more professional in your business. And I think you'll kind of realize that it makes it a lot easier to manage. And although we have a lot of properties, it's not really a major headache for us because we have these things in place, and also allows you to make decisions because stuff is easy, accessible, and you got accurate records and so on. So again, not only is it helpful, in knowing where your rental, how your business is doing, you do need to know how you're doing from a practical standpoint, from a financial standpoint, from an operational standpoint. And because if you do that, it's a lot less stressful for you. Okay. So again, that's number 7. So let me just quickly run through the 7 habits again. So the 7 habits of highly successful landlords. Habit number 1, run your landlording business like a business. And we kind of went through that. And then habit number 2 is know the applicable federal, state, and local laws. It's very important because that's the governing overriding for you. It's really important to know what the law says. Ignorance is not bliss, especially if you have to go to court and you have to stand in front of a judge. Habit number 3, find great tenants through effective marketing. You market your tenants for the right tenants, and it's really important because if you can attract quality tenants, it makes your job easier. And how do you do that? You do that through having an application, which is very thorough, very detailed. It allows you to kind of weed out the bad apples, such that you hopefully get tier 1 tenants or the great tenants. And so use your application and your screening to get these tier 1 tenants. And then also habit number 5 is prepare and implement good landlord documents, having good documentation to support your business. There's, it's good to have the right documents, whether it be leases, agreements, notices, and successful landlords, they have all that in place and so on. And then habit number 6 is they handle tenant related problems carefully and effectively. You're going to have problems. When you're a landlord, you're dealing with all different types of personalities, and and you got to be able to handle that in such a way that you're able to don't lose sight of the bigger picture and so on. And then number 7 is get and stay organized. That's really important. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of paperwork, a lot of electronic information that has to be organized and managed. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for you. So that's the 7 habits of highly effective landlords. I hope that was helpful. And that pretty much wraps up the this month focus on landlording for you. Hopefully that this was helpful. Hopefully this was informative. And so we'll probably transition to Q&A shortly. So if you got your questions, please put them in the chat, and I can take them on. The other thing is, have a look. We do have as I said before, we got the Tenant Screening Playbook course. It's going to be starting very shortly, and looking forward to that one. In addition to learning how to find great tenants that pay you these tier 1 tenants, you're going to get all my documentation. Plus, also, you're going to get access to me during the course. And you can sign up for that and register that at the website, www.drjoeplaybook.com. drjoeplaybook.com is where you can sign up for that one. And so on. So let's have a look. Do we have the questions? So get your questions together. And let's start the Q&A. Okay, you got some questions, please? Okay, this is from Bella Donna. I hope I pronounced that right, Bella. Again, if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box, and I'll be more than happy to go through that. What do you do when a prospective tenant won't agree to you visiting their home? That's pretty simple. I require that they allow me to go visit their home. I explain it in such a way. Here's as follows. Most landlords do not visit homes. So most tenants aren't accustomed to landlords going through their homes. They're not, and they may feel uncomfortable if you ask for that permission. And this is what I do when I place an ad in the newspaper, or well, not newspaper anymore, in electronic online or wherever. I describe the home. It's a beautiful home, great neighborhood, all those buzzwords that my tenants are looking for. And then a telephone number. They'll call. My assistant answers the phone, or sometimes I answer the phone, and I explain to them the house, and I say, this is what's going to happen if you are interested. If you come to the home, I have an application form. We're going to verify certain things, rental history, income, all that stuff. And on top of that, we will make a visit to your home. And this is how I explain it, Bell. I say, look, as you can see, we have a beautiful home here, and my homes are very, very nice. So what I found is that if somebody keeps their current home in good condition, they're more likely to keep this one in good condition. Okay, and most people can relate, can agree with that. If somebody keeps their current home in good condition, they're pretty much going to take care of this one. If they trash and destroy their current home, then there's a pretty good chance they're probably going to trash and destroy this home. And most people can agree with that. And I just say, hey, the only way I'll know is a visit to the home. And if I've got a product that somebody wants, a product that they don't see very often, because I know who my customers are and what they're looking for. And I position myself as a good landlord who's going to take care of the property, do the right thing as a landlord, and so on. And I'm looking for an excellent, I say, the best tenant in the world. So this is how I'm positioning it. Most people, once you explain all that, understand why you are looking to go to their home. And I say that up front anyway. So if you are uncomfortable, then I just say, hey, it's this is the screening process. This is what we do, and it applies across the board. So it's not a discriminatory thing whereby I only do it for certain people but not other people, and so I do it across the board. It's a policy, and because it's a policy, it doesn't sort of violate the fair housing. Now, if I only did it for voucher holders but not non-voucher holders, then that could be a problem. But since I apply it across the board, regardless, then it's okay. It's a policy decision. So that's how I explain it, Bell, is I try to break it down in such a way that it makes sense. If you had spent 50,000, 100,000, this is the tenant, you'd want to know, and I showed up at your door for the first time, you'd want to know that I'm going to protect your investment. Most people say, yeah, I agree. And then the only way I can know how my house is going to be is that I'm going to go visit your home to see how you keep it. And that's sort of a way how I share to prospects as to why I take the time and I want to go visit their home. And believe it or not, I don't get that much pushback. I really don't. Even from market renters, because people think, well, market renters certainly aren't going to agree with that one. No, I do it for everybody. All market renters. The key is I have a product that they want. If I had a crappy product, a crappy house in a crappy neighborhood, and it was kind of didn't look good, then people may say, well, who the hell do you think you are? To want to come to my home. You got a crappy house. So you don't really stand a chance if you don't have a good product. But because I have a good product, I can sort of raise the bar in terms of the screening, and therefore I'm able to get the kind of tenants that I'm looking for. Okay, Bell. So anyway, to put your questions in, I'll be more than happy to answer more of your questions. And we've got a few more minutes, about 5 minutes or so left. And so put all your questions in, and I'll be more than happy to take them for you before the end of the day, and so on. So let me talk about some other landlording experiences that I think would be helpful for people on this line. One of the tips I do is to go to landlord tenant court on a regular basis. You'll be surprised of the stories that you hear when you go there. And what I found is that there's a saying: a wise man learns from his mistakes and a genius learns from other people's mistakes. I say that often because that's been the basis for a lot of things I do. There's no point to recreate the wheel. So I like to learn from other people's experiences. And that's the reason why I go to landlord tenant court. And I recommend that, if you're a landlord, or if you're a prospective landlord, you take the time to go down there and you just see, how decisions are made. You see firsthand some of the horror stories. You see firsthand some of the schemes and scams that tenants pull on landlords, and likewise, you see some really pretty lousy landlords who I'd be shaking my head, like the story I told you about the guy who took the exterior door from the house. I mean, I'm just shaking my head. Why would you do this? Don't you know that's illegal? But some people think that it's okay to do that. If you recall in the session that we had a couple of weeks ago when I had the tenants, some landlords just show up at the doors of tenants and just essentially come there unannounced, to the chagrin of tenants. It's just amazing. But when you go to these hearings, you kind of see firsthand what to do and what not to do, how decisions are made, who are the good attorneys, who are the bad attorneys, who are how judges make decisions, what's the rationale behind those decisions. You just learn a lot. So that's a quick tip that you may want to consider. If you are a prospective landlord and so on. I didn't mention today, next Wednesday, the Wealth Wednesday, we're going to have a special VIP guest. We're going to have Mr. Scott Trench. Scott Trench is if you're not familiar with him, Scott is the president and CEO of Bigger Pockets. And so he's going to be my VIP guest next Wednesday on Wealth Wednesday. And very, very looking forward to that discussion. Scott's a great guy. I met him last year at BPCon, Bigger Pockets Conference 21, and that was in New Orleans last year. And we kind of bumped into each other really and just had a conversation. We talked for about an hour and a half, I think it was. Really nice guy. And, and we just had a good conversation. I reached out to him and, he immediately accepted my offer or invitation to be a part of the program. So we're going to talk about, how to sort of, how to make your first $500,000. That's the gist of it. And we're going to talk about that next Wealth Wednesday, next Wednesday. So I'm looking forward to that one. Also, I'm going to be one of the speakers at BPCon in San Diego. I think it's the first week in October. So I'll be there. And check me out over there as well. So Scott Trench, Bigger Pockets guest next week. Wealth Wednesday, trying to up the bar on what's it called on Wealth Wednesday. So check that out next week, 7 p.m. Eastern time, September the 7th with Scott Trench. Okay, let's have a look at another question. I think there's one here. Let's have a look. See if we're on the screen. Okay. Dr. Joe, again, if you got some questions, put it up and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Dr. Joe, at what point would it make sense to go with a market renter versus a voucher holder if you use the same screening techniques if market rent pays more? Okay, so Johnny H, at what point, Dr. Joe, would it make sense to go with a market renter versus a voucher holder if you use the same screening techniques if the market rent pays more? Okay, so your decision, the question, I think it boils down to this. If you got two applicants or you got several applicants vying for your home and one has a voucher and another does not, who would you pick? And my thing, it depends. Classic answer, it depends. What does it depend on? What I found is that, yes, I can get more money sometimes with a market renter because sometimes the Section 8 rent may not be as much as the market rent. So maybe slightly low. It just depends how low, what's the difference? What's the delta between the two? But what I found is that my voucher holders tend to stay longer. They're looking for certain things. They're looking for a certain level of stability, and because they're not paying most of the rent, and the rent that they pay is based on their income. They're able to ride out downturns a lot more better than a market renter. So if a market renter loses their job, for example, then you may not get any rent, or they're more likely to leave. And whereas for a voucher holder, if they lose their job, then they'll go to the housing authority, and the housing authority typically will reduce their portion of the rent, and the housing authority kicks in. So I answer that question in a couple ways. I like stability. I don't like turnover. I think that yes, if I make $50, $100 more with market renters, yes, I get a little bit more cash flow, but I may get turnover. So that market renter may stay there a year or two, whereas the voucher holder may stay there 5, 6, 10 years. So what you lose on the spread each month, you gain by the turnover that you've saved, the turnover cost. And typically turnover cost is like 2 to 3 months lost income. So each turnover, if your rent is $1,000, let's say $2,000, each turnover is going to be $6,000 after all is said and done. If you can save $6,000, to me, it is in the long run, you save more money than what you would gain through additional $50, $60, $100 every month. That's my rationale. And you can't. I don't think I can get 5, 10, 15, 20-year tenants paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. I just don't think I can get it. They'll be gone if there was a market renter, because they'll be looking to buy their own home or whatever. So that's my rationale, Johnny. Hopefully that makes sense. At the end of the day, it depends on you. There are pros and cons, but my experience is that my voucher holders tend to stay longer, and because they stay longer, my turnover costs are lower, and as a result, I tend to save more money at the end of the day after all is said and done. So yeah, I mean, that's it's recession resistant, and I've been through 4 of these cycles, so I have a pretty good idea how they shake out. It is not pretty. I tell you, it is not pretty. We're going to be going through a recession if we're not already in one. It is not pretty, and I don't care what anybody tells you. You will see, because for the last 5, 10 years, the market's been pretty good, and most people have bought real estate and think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread because they've done well. And that may be true, but maybe it may not be true because the market saved you. And when the market downturns, it doesn't save you. If you did your calculations wrong, if you have turnover, if your repairs are so high or whatever it is, you can't expect the market to bail you out. It doesn't. And therefore, you'll be left high and dry. I've just seen too many people go out of business who are doing good during the good times, but fell flat when they went through the bad times. That's the reason why I like the strategy that I do. It's a lot more resistant to recessions, and it allows me to sort of get these 5, 10, 15, 20-year tenants in the stability and so on. So I think we are done for today. It's about 8 o'clock now. So with that said and done, my friends, next week we have Mr. Scott Trench. He'll be the VIP guest on the Wealth Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that conversation. And so with that said and done, don't forget, we will be having the Tenant Screening Playbook course. We'll be starting very shortly. So feel free to sign up for that class, and at the www.drjoeplaybook.com, and see if I can pull that up. I think it's here. Yeah. So so you can register at the website www.drjoeplaybook.com, and that's where we'll be starting very shortly. You'll get all the tips and secrets that I've developed over the last 30-something years. You get 10 of my documents, and you'll also get access to me for Q&A and answering all your landlord and tenant relations and real estate investing related questions. So with that said and done, my friends, I will wrap it up for today, and I will see you next Wednesday. Don't forget to sign up for the Dr. Joe Playbook course, and we will see you then. So have yourself a wonderful evening. Take care. Bye for now.